Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Wajaha and today we are doing another deep dive. This time we are talking about zkSync. Now, for those of you who don't know, zkSync is something that everyone's been talking about on crypto Twitter. But if you haven't, luckily you've got me today to try and explain everything that I possibly can about it. So this is going to be a long one. Grab yourself a cup of tea, get yourself a cup of coffee, sit back, relax and enjoy. Make some notes if you want to as well, because there's going to be lots of information here. And so yeah, we're going to talk about zkSync. Now, zkSync has been in the works for a long time. It's a blockchain that has been created by Matter Labs and they've been working on it for so many years, and finally it's arrived. This is something that probably should have taken even longer, but impressively they've been able to release it in a much shorter time period, and we've got it live now. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about, first of all, what is zkSync, ZK rollups versus optimistic rollups, some of the features of zkSync, its ecosystem, funding, roadmap, competition, a potential token, and airdrop potential as well, which is quite hot at the moment, some resources, the team, and obviously some final thoughts. Now, if you're new to my channel, I do many of these deep dives and they are quite long form content, so I appreciate that you may not want to watch all of it. So I'll leave some timestamps in the video. Of course, I'll leave some links in the description below. Subscribe, like the video. It really helps me out as well. Now, let's continue. First of all, what actually is zkSync? Well, it was created by Matter Labs in 2019, so it's been almost 4 years. This is the 4th year since inception. And essentially, it's a ZK rollup EVM compatible layer 2 blockchain for Ethereum. Now, that is a lot of words, and some of you who are new to crypto or new to DeFi probably don't understand what any of that stuff means. We'll kind of go through that as we go along this presentation. And they use this technology called zkSync. Now, this picture that I've got on the right is a common thing in crypto. We have this thing called the scalability trilemma. Often, you'll find that blockchains are able to pick up 1 or 2 of these aspects, as A, B, and C, but not really 3. And this is one of the reasons why things like Ethereum haven't really worked so well. Just at the moment, Ethereum is very good with security and decentralization, but because of its priority on these 2 elements, it's kind of lacked on the scalability side of things. And that's where we saw the rise of these layer 1 and layer 2s over the last couple of years. Most of them often are picking up some more of the scalability side, but obviously losing some of this decentralization and security side. And so really the dilemma that we have at the moment is there isn't really a blockchain that's able to, categorically satisfy all 3 of these criteria. That is probably going to remain for a long time, and essentially what zkSync are trying to do is trying to help Ethereum achieve this. And that's because zkSync is kind of essentially built on top of Ethereum. It's a layer 2 blockchain, and you could consider Ethereum to be a layer 1 blockchain. So it's built on top of it. And so when you're using zkSync, you're going to be using Ethereum for your transaction fees. You're going to be using Ethereum because it's built on Ethereum. And we'll kind of talk about kind of how the transactions and security element with Ethereum work later on. It's a ZK rollup, and there's 2 main types of rollups, and we're going to talk about this in the next slide. There's ZK rollups, which are this new innovative technology, and there's optimistic rollups, which we've been using for a little while now in the form commonly of Arbitrum and Optimism. ZK rollups is a different type of technology altogether that's kind of come out. EVM essentially stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine, and essentially this is where all of the smart contracts and everything Ethereum related is built. So think of this like a layer 2 blockchain built on top of Ethereum that uses ZK rollups. And it uses this specific type of technology called zkSync. Now, why would they do this in the first place? Well, ZK rollups are the best in class security. Well, Ethereum, I should say, has the best in class security. ZK rollups are a new thing, and zkSync has the first mover advantage, being the first chain to kind of have ZK rollups. It's extremely scalable, and we're going to talk about this later. And of course, being EVM compatible is very, very important because it means that developers can very easily move their smart contracts across. It's going to be very easy for builders already on those chains like Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, Phantom, Avalanche, Harmony, all these different chains. It's going to be so easy for them to kind of just move their smart contracts over and kind of build on zkSync. And that is a very important thing, especially when we have such a developed space. Well, I say developed. we have a lot of stuff built on Ethereum already, and so we kind of want that to continue, don't we? Talking about this technology, zkSnark, there's kind of two main types of ZK kind of technology, the snarks and the starks. Now, starks are inherently a bit more secure. However, snarks are faster, the verification time is less, it's cheaper in terms of gas, significantly cheaper, and it does require less storage as well. So just a few things to kind of be aware of. I thought I'll just leave this here. You can kind of take a picture of that or screenshot it, or whatever you find useful if you want to kind of use that for your own research as well. Now let's talk in a bit more detail about these kind of different rollups. Like, as I mentioned, there's two kind of main rollups for Ethereum at the moment. There's the ZK rollups and the optimistic rollups. The optimistic rollups are the ones that we're familiar with already. We've seen the rise of Optimism and Arbitrum. Both of these blockchains have received significant volume and growth. And only recently we had the Arbitrum token airdrop as well. And you can see that these two blockchains are valued at $10 billion fully diluted. So $20 billion of value as of recording, of course, in these two blockchains. Significant value, hundreds and hundreds of applications. So much total value locked in these applications as well, and a lot of users as well. I'm a big fan of both of these blockchains, and I've been using them substantially over the last 12 months. And the optimistic rollups have been doing really well. Now, what actually are optimistic rollups? Well, essentially, they will process transactions in batches to the main layer 1 being Ethereum, and by producing these batches, they're able to kind of scale up, because you can obviously produce so much more at a much cheaper cost. There is a 7-day, essentially every transaction posted on these optimistic rollups is assumed to be valid or assumed to be correct. And there's a 7-day challenge period afterwards in which a challenge can be processed if any of those transactions were incorrect. It does also take 1 week to withdraw funds from the layer 2 optimistic rollups to the layer 1. This is not as strong as ZK rollups, and that's because with ZK rollups, there's no challenge period at all, because they use this technology called zero-knowledge cryptographic proofs that help to definitively prove transactions. And you don't need to have to wait for any challenge period. You don't need to assume any transactions are correct. Zero-knowledge proofs inherently are able to detect, if transactions are secure, if transactions are valid. And that basically means that they are much better. They are valid to begin with. There's no significant infrastructure that's needed. They can become more scalable because of this, and there's obviously, as I mentioned, there's no challenge period. Now, this diagram kind of shows some of the transactions per second between optimistic rollups and ZK rollups. You can see that optimistic rollups are around 500 transactions per second. Bear in mind, Ethereum is like 12. So this is a significant jump already, but ZK rollups, you're talking at least 2,000 and potentially even 20,000 plus, which is a substantial difference. And that, that really, it will be a game changer in scaling Ethereum in the future. So to summarize everything from this slide, essentially, ZK rollups have no challenge period. The proofs themselves are able to tell you if transactions are correct. You don't need to wait. There's no game theory involved. There's no 1 week withdrawal time periods or anything like that. And because of that, ZK rollups are more secure than optimistic rollups. They're better technology. Now, zkSync obviously uses ZK rollups, and some of the features that zkSync have, I've written here. Though, of course, it's EVM compatible, and that's really important because all these developers on Optimism and Arbitrum can just move over to zkSync. These developers on Ethereum can move over to zkSync. They can build their apps here very easily. They have account abstraction, and well, they're going to focus on account abstraction, essentially to make it as simple as possible to use Web3 and to use DeFi and to use these on-chain applications. I think one of the issues at the moment is, especially when I try and explain some of these crazy cool stuff that I'm doing on-chain to my friends, they don't have a clue. And for them to kind of understand, how to use a wallet, how to connect to this, paying for this, approvals here, revoking here, using different wallets, different chains. It's so confusing at times, can be quite overwhelming, and zkSync are going to try and work on this. And one of the things that they've done is that they have this dynamic fee model where obviously gas is paid in ETH, but you can use any token you want in order to pay your gas fees. And I think that is a really fantastic model in just kind of making things a lot easier and a lot more user-friendly. In its current form, zkSync will be able to process around 3,000 plus transactions per second, and that is significantly more than not only Ethereum, but also significantly more than the optimistic rollups, and I think that's something to really be aware of. And they do have this thing known as hyperscaling. Now we're going to go down and have a look here, and hopefully this picture can kind of help you appreciate kind of how hyperscaling works. Now essentially we've got the layer 1 Ethereum chain, and then we've got the layer 2. This will be zkSync. Now, what will be built on top of zkSync is this layer 3, which is they call the next frontier. This is what they say. I'm just going to read this out to you. Our vision for layer 3 is that it will be an ecosystem of customizable and trustly linked blockchains powered by ZKEVM that we refer to as hyperchains. Layer 3 will enable limitless scaling with limitless customization, resulting in a starfill of 10x moments. These moments cut across 5 vectors, and essentially there's 5 sectors that they want to focus on. Number 1 being security, and they know that bridges and things like that get hacked a lot. And in zkSync, what they're going to do is they're going to create these kind of new chains built on top that are probably app specific, application specific. They'll all be able to communicate with one another, have direct links with one another, and these are all going to have native bridges, and that is much better for security. In terms of performance, they are going to try and scale, and as we saw here, scaling to 20,000 transactions per second plus, and obviously that means significantly cheaper fees. Even the cheap fees that we have with the rollups already, they're going to be even cheaper. Data costs being reduced as well, the ease of use as well. So they're going to try and make as many different improvements as possible to make, of course, app creation even easier, and composability as well. They're going to focus on that. Now, this idea is known as fractal scaling, and it's going to be essentially many different zk proof chains, which are known as hyperchains, which are run in parallel, and they get their block proofs aggregated into a single final block, which will then get settled onto the layer 1. So each of the hyperchains will resemble the entire chain, so you can have an infinite number of hyperchains on top of the layer 3. So this is really important for scaling, and one of the main areas where this is going to be really good is you can kind of choose how you want your app to work. Now you can use different types of these zk rollups for different features. Now, if you want to have the full security that Ethereum offers, you can go for just your normal zk rollup, and that's great for your DeFi protocols, your Uniswap, your MakerDAOs, your compounds. Now, if you want to create an application, for example, for gaming, you're going to have tons and tons of transactions there. So you might want to use something called ZK Portal, which is a branch of this. And this essentially will have some of your data on-chain and some of your data off-chain. So that optimizes for cheap, fast, and secure. Now, if you want to have ultimate performance, so you can kind of reduce your security a little bit more, you can go for Validium, and these will put all of your transactions off chain, and I think that kind of flexibility really helps growing the ecosystem and growing the variety of different apps that we're going to see in crypto and with blockchain. I think this is fantastic. zkSync has obviously so much going for it at the moment. We've just really got to see how they can execute and how they are going to execute all of these things. Now, the ecosystem is growing pretty rapidly already. In fact, zkSync has this era, which is kind of one of their main nets, which is live as of just a few days ago, and they already have quite a few number of different applications ready to be used by us right this second, actually. In fact, I even made a video recently where I used Orbiter Finance as well, so go and check that out. And they have a number of our favorite applications already committed to kind of growing or building on zkSync. So, your Uniswap, Balancer, Yearn, your Fraxes, Redacted, Olympus, Sushi, Alchemix, all these different applications have already committed to building on zkSync. I believe around 150 to 200 applications are already committed to building on zkSync. So really it's just a matter of time before we see all of these things live on zkSync, and I think that I'm really excited for that, because that's where we're really going to see the growth, and we're going to see the huge potential and opportunities that we get with all these different applications kind of building, and some of them potentially deciding to create their own hyperchains and whatnot. So it's going to be fantastic to see. I think one thing that we do know is lots will be built on zkSync. And why do we know that? And that's because they've been able to raise so much money. I believe this is almost $460 million that they've raised, and here you can see kind of all the different investors. I think one thing that I find interesting is that some of these investors have participated in rounds twice, or 3 times even, 4 times I should say, with Dragonfly. So that really just goes to show that these investing companies, these VCs, really I think zkSync is doing well. Now, one of the ones that stood out to me was the 200 million from BitDAO. They actually mentioned that 70% of the funds will be used for capital investments in areas such as DeFi, NFT, games, privacy, interoperability, and even providing liquidity. So we've got hundreds of millions of dollars being pumped into the ecosystem from day one. And I think that obviously lights a sparkle in my eye, because I know that that's going to lead to lots of yield farming and lots of opportunities around, lots of ways for us to all hopefully make some gains as well. So yeah, lots and lots of investment that has happened into zkSync, and I think I'm pretty excited about that. In terms of the roadmap, as I mentioned, the zkSync era mainnet is live, and this was on the 24th of March, so not too long ago. And essentially that means we're able to basically use zkSync. You can bridge over there now, you can use some of those applications. And in their roadmap, there is going to be further mainnets coming in the near future, so stay tuned for that. But here we are at the moment, and zkSync is live for us to use. They have also mentioned that the layer 3 concept, which I talked about, is going to be coming pretty soon. It will be released in Q1 2023. I believe this is going to be the testnet. Now, I believe we're probably coming towards the end of Q1, so maybe we won't have kind of opportunity, this kind of layer 3 concept live just yet, but at least we'll have some sort of testnet fairly soon, and this will be like the foundation for experimentation, research, and kind of the overall development of layer 3. So hopefully this comes quick. I think it probably will take some time, lots of testing will be needed, etc. But this will hopefully bring 10x scaling or 1000x scaling hopefully to Ethereum. The layer 2 landscape so far is getting pretty heated actually. In terms of the optimistic rollups, we have Arbitrum, Optimism, Metis. We have Base coming from Coinbase as well pretty soon. These are obviously been around for a while and have grown quite significantly. We've got billions of dollars in TVL on all of these chains, and obviously Base from Coinbase is coming pretty soon too. In terms of ZK rollups, well, we don't really have too much at the moment. Obviously, zkSync is live, and as of a few days ago, Polygon ZKEVM, which is their ZK rollup, is live as well. We've got Starknet and Loopring coming pretty soon as well. But really, development on ZK rollups in terms of their ecosystem hasn't really come just yet. It's really just a matter of time. And as you can see here from this picture, we can see Arbitrum and Optimism with hundreds of protocols. About 3 billion, over 3 billion in TVL between them. So a lot of money on these. And the question really is, if the technology for ZK rollups is better than optimistic rollups, will these chains be able to kind of get this TVL away, or kind of take the market share away from Arbitrum and Optimism? I think probably they will, but also I do think that more money is coming into the space, and I think over time we're going to see both optimistic rollups and ZK rollups both grow together and both help to kind of scale Ethereum. So I'd like to think, if I had to place my bets, I'm going to bet on all of them. I'm just going to bet on layer 2 scaling, because I think it's as a fan of Ethereum and as someone who believes in Ethereum, I think layer 2s are really making huge inroads into scaling Ethereum and making it something that everyone can use. Now, will there be a token for zkSync? Well, the simple answer is I believe so. Yes, they have said, Meta Labs have said there will be a token, but the question is when, and I don't think there will be a token anytime soon. I think it's going to be quite a while actually. I mean, even with Arbitrum and Optimism, we had to wait almost 18 months maybe, before Arbitrum released their token. The question is really, why do they need a token right now when everything is so centralized? At the moment, there isn't really a need. But I think with time, they will have obviously an important focus on governance on chain, and especially when the sequencer is decentralized. And I think when the time comes, then I think a token is potentially viable. For the time being, though, I don't think there is. I mean, when you do transact on the zkSync mainnet, you're using Ethereum as your main gas fee. Of course, they do have the ability to use kind of any token as their gas token. But yeah, I think governance is going to be an important thing, especially when it comes to decentralization. But that we haven't reached that period just yet. So there's a little while to wait. I think for people who are rushing into thinking that there's a token coming anytime soon, I'd say the chances are very, very unlikely. Talking about airdrop farming, what everyone's talking about this now, especially because everyone's been getting these huge airdrops. What do I think that you probably need to do in order to be eligible for one, if there is one? Well, number one, I think just bridge onto zkSync. Number two, use as many of the apps as possible. Number three, continue. Number four, just repeat. Essentially, we don't really know what the criteria is going to be. It could be anything. There could be a number of different things. And ultimately, I think just use the ecosystem. Just use zkSync in its form. Use the apps. You'll automatically become eligible based on that. If there are anything specifics, I'll let you know. Follow me on Twitter and make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, and I'll make content about it. But I think just organically using the chains is more than enough. You don't need to be hyper focused on using a specific bridge or a specific app. Just use the chain. You will be rewarded for it. There's a really good video here by Bankless where they talked about stuff related to zkSync, so I'll leave that in the description below, some good resources there. Let's look at Matter Labs. Well, they have a huge team. Look at the Twitter following, 740,000 followers, ridiculous amount. Alex Gluchowski is the CEO, so go and give him a follow and kind of look at some of the stuff that he has to say. Matter Labs is growing. I saw they've got 20 plus jobs available at the moment, so they're aggressively hiring, and that really just shows the money that they've got to kind of pour into zkSync at the moment. I think it's going to grow pretty well. And here you can see some of the different members of the team. There's many more. There's honestly, I feel like there's like 50 plus members. These are just some of the main ones, and they have tens and tens of years of experience with blockchains, but also other kind of projects as well. So go and have a look at them. Do some research on them if you want. But yeah, I thought I'll just kind of share that here. And lastly, just to kind of finish off really, just to kind of conclude my thoughts. Look, zkSync has finally brought ZK rollups to Ethereum. I'm really excited to see how the new technology kind of presents. I'm excited to see kind of new opportunities present. I think it's obvious that ZK rollups are better in technology than optimistic rollups. Optimistic rollups have been around for a while, and they obviously have some development there. So I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of where the landscape takes place going forward. We've got a lot of competition as well with the likes of Polygon, ZKEVM, Starknet, Loopring, and others kind of trying to build their own ZK rollups. But I think ultimately all of this is beneficial to Ethereum, and I think if you're an Ethereum bull like I am, you're going to find stuff like this exciting. With zkSync, there will be opportunities. There's going to be tons of new applications, tons of new DeFi products, all the kind of current DeFi projects kind of bridging over to zkSync as well. It's going to be exciting. There's going to be lots of activity, lots of things for us to do. And I think ultimately, hopefully this should result in activities for us to do to kind of make some money as well. Will we potentially get an airdrop? Probably. I mean, we don't know for sure, but I think the chances are higher than zero. And so I think it is worth kind of exploring the zkSync ecosystem, trying stuff out. And I think if you do, even if you do it organically, you probably will be rewarded for it. So zkSync, definitely an exciting project, one that I'm definitely going to be using. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything that I didn't explain too well. Again, I'll try and explain it a little bit better. Subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my newsletter. It's free, and I try and give you as much information for free as possible there. So yeah, check that out, and hopefully you found this video helpful. So stay tuned, and I'll be back with plenty more content in the near future.